All right, it's Warren here, back at NAMM on day 2. I'm with Brett Teegarden. I'm going to make sure I pronounce it properly.
Right.
So how are you? Having fun here?
Oh, always. I mean, I've been to probably 15 of these shows here in Nashville. As a spectator, you know.
Ah, because you're an engineer. You're a full-time engineer. And you've been doing it for
30 years.
30 years.
Well, and 5 before that in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
In Tulsa.
Yeah. So I migrated here. 88.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you have your own studio? Do you work independently?
I do now. Well, I was partners in a couple of other commercial studios in town over the years.
Great.
But now everybody has their
place
set up at home.
Yeah.
You know.
Great.
The first product I built as I transitioned into this role as building my own gear was called the Fat Boy Tube DI.
Beautiful.
It's kind of, we have a sense of humor as well. So
yeah.
It's a very simple device. That's the other side of our philosophy is simplicity. You won't find all the checklist of hundreds of features in our gear, but what you find is the absolute best sound that you can obtain.
Right.
Right. But this is single tube gain stage direct box.
Wonderful.
It's really caught on here in Nashville. A lot of the top session players, to name a few records that it's on right now, Blake Shelton's last 3 releases, Carrie Underwood's last 2 releases, all the Rascal Flatts records over the last couple of years.
Right.
In fact, Jay DeMarcus, I make a rack mount version too. He has 8 of these.
8 of them?
8, yeah, he carries 4 of them in his live rig. He has 2 recording studios here in town, so he has 2 in each studio.
Wow.
You know, so we've done very well in Nashville, but now we're with the help of Wave Distribution, we're trying to get the word out to the rest of the world.
Well, it's good for me being English because the Producer's Workshop is very famous for doing the bulk of the wall.
Exactly.
They did the bass and the drums over in England for most of the songs, came over to there, tracked, I'm blanking on which song, but one of the with Jeff Procaro playing drums.
Yes.
I think it was on Mother. Yeah, it was Mother.
Yeah.
And then did all the overdubs and mixed at that studio.
That's correct.
So it's a nice little segue. I love that.
Fleetwood Mac Rimbers was mixed there as well.
Right.
Steely Dan Asia was cut there as well.
Yeah, they did. I know that as well. Yeah.
Okay.
It's amazing.
Anyway.
So tell us about these then, the pre's.
Okay. Well, in that same vein, the next product I wanted to do, I needed a preamp. Yep. And for me, my philosophy was let's start at the beginning of the signal chain. You know, I could build a bunch of effects and compressors and EQs and all that kind of stuff, but man, if you don't have it right here at this stage, then it's an uphill climb the rest of your project, you know, to try to get things to sound right.
So these are transformerless?
These are all discrete Class A amps. Okay, they're in the same you know, lineage of the Neve, the API, all the, you know, Electric Dyne. You could go on and name all those companies through those years, but it's a totally different circuit. This is not a clone of any of all the other, you know, of the famous things that are out there, but it goes head to head with them. And,
that's amazing.
You know, I mean, I built them for me to use, and it was like, you know, after I started building this, like, why didn't I have these 30 years ago?
Yeah.
I mean, I had access to them, but we were always chasing the latest, greatest, newest thing, you know?
Wonderful.
But
I hear you.
That's my history. It's very simple. It's very straightforward, and a lot of our success comes from my career of having contacts, and you talked about people. And the relationships that you build in the industry. So that's
well, I mean, some of the most famous piece of equipment, the Trident A range, was designed and built by the engineers of the studio.
Exactly. And I'm a huge fan of the
Of course, I'm
A-range,
sure you know Doug Fern. Doug.
Yes, absolutely.
Great engineer, builds his own stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. It adds a lot of credibility to it.
Thanks.
Well, fantastic. What are these going for? What are the prices?
Well, the street price on this is $7.99.
Right.
The rack mount version is roughly around $9.50.
Yep.
I built a stereo version as well for $13.50.
Okay, that's good.
Street price on the 4-channel, and we actually just redesigned the front panel to be a little more artistic, I guess.
Oh, I love the little VUs. They're beautiful.
The street price on this is $22.50.
That's good.
$22.49. Gil likes to do the $49.
It's good, about $500 a pre. That's good.
Yeah, and then the 2-channel, you'll see they're lined up very similar to the. If you ever want to it's $13.50 street.
That's
but
nice.
If you ever want to upgrade to the 4, just send it back to me, and I'll put a new faceplate on and 2 more cards in, and good to go with a
That's
4.
great.
So for the up-and-coming engineer that really cares about his signal chain and where he starts with the signal, he can get in at this point, and then as he becomes more successful, he wants to upgrade to 4, send it back in.
He's thinking about 500 series?
This stuff will not work with 500 series.
Really? Why is that?
Because of the
power?
The power and the this is swing that we need.
Right,
I mean, this has 26 dB of headroom before clipping.
Amazing.
The transient response of this is just so fast and smooth.
Well, I definitely want to hear it. If it's got that lineage of that console that made all those great records.
If I say symmetrical clipping, a lot of the solid state gear, when they go into that clipping stage, which most of them, even though they say they have a lot of headroom, it starts at about 18 dB over 0. But usually the top portion of the wave clips, not the bottom, or the bottom will clip and the top will still be the same. It's asymmetrical, and that's what makes transistors and chips sound harsh or funky, But if you can design a circuit that has symmetrical clipping, where as you enter that range, both the top and bottom fold at the same level, then it sounds like very tube-like.
Great.
So that's where we are.
Wonderful. Well, thank you ever so much for taking the time. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Of course, if you've got any questions about this, please leave some questions below and we'll ask them. All right, I'm here with the wonderful, great Larry Klein. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great.
This is like, last time I came here, you were the first person I spoke to, and I remember,
oh my God.
I say this all the time, I walked in and it was like you and Reece Ship and Kyle Lenning and Jason Lenning, and I'm like, wow, I was like, I like Nashville. You walk straight in and like 4 or 5 of the top people are all just hanging out. So nice new episode here for those.
Yes.
New, check it out. The Richard Swift article is fantastic.
Boo Mitchell from Royal Studios in Memphis.
Yeah.
Mac DeMarco recording at home. Audio Tree TV do some great live recording production work. Jeremy Ferguson from Nashville here, Battle Tape Studio, is in here this issue. And Dusty Wakeman from Mojave Microphones, some great microphones.
Yeah,
I did a little interview with him about his history.
Yeah, Dusty used to own, what was the studio he owned?
Mad Dog.
Mad Dog, yeah.
Yeah, Mad Dog Studios in Burbank.
So it's been an amazing show. I think it's busier again than last year.
Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah, and it's still only Friday, so tomorrow I imagine it's going to be
Tomorrow
insane.
it opens to the public too, doesn't it?
Oh, does it?
At some point I think it does, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, watch out.
Wow. I mean, this is, as it is now, it's about as busy as, this is perfect for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It might get busier.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I'm a guitar player, so I'm hoping in a couple of hours to go down there and start twiddling on some guitars.
There's so many great stomp boxes and stuff over there. And I just see, every time I go to this show, it's dangerous. I'll see funny little instruments and things.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be kind of fun to have, and I got to stop myself, I even got too many magazines I picked up of other people's magazines, and I have a stack back in my room that I've got to probably mail home because my luggage will be too heavy.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was fun. I see a lot of stuff.
If you haven't already, subscribe to Tape Op. And it's just tapeop.com, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's here.
And look, don't forget.
Subscriptions are free.
It is free.
Tapeop.com.
And it is probably, if I've tried to be anything, it's to be like this. Because what you are is
like a piece of paper?
Yes, exactly. I am basically, look, see?
Yeah, no, it's frozen in time.
It's to be eclectic. Genreless.
Oh, yeah.
Genreless, like you're working with home studio guys, going through to like, Dusty.
This issue's all over the map, you know, and I like that, and
guys that are on tape, guys that are using radar, guys that are using, DAWs, big, large format consoles, everything. And but even just genreless sonically as well, musically, anything. And
I was just talking to one of the writers about an article about Tupac in the studio.
Great.
And we're like, that'd be amazing. Let's do it, So I think that just finding all the different ways records can be made and the different people that work in different ways and all that, I think is really interesting. And
it's up to guys like us to help grow and cultivate. Because the last thing I want to do is for you and I to like drop dead and it's basically the over 40s are the only people that care about it.
And the other thing too is I think with the rise of the internet and a lot of rise in sort of like education that we were all putting out there on the internet, the other thing we need to do is show that there are many, many different ways to make a record. Like there's a lot of information out there, and there's like Pensado's Place and all these video things, like my Linda video courses. But the thing people always have to keep in mind is there's not just one way of working.
Exactly.
Like because someone says put like a compressor on a mix bus, it doesn't mean everyone has to put a compressor on a mix bus. And I don't. So it's like, you know, so it's like, I think it's really important that people like get a lot of information from a lot of different sources and see that as ways to make records. Open up all those
Exactly.
doors.
I mean, there's things that people do and things that I do that are fundamentally wrong for other people.
Sure, yeah.
But if it works,
yeah. Hey, if you're getting the job done,
yeah,
you're getting the job done. If the clients are happy,
if the clients
you're
happy,
really getting the job done.
And I'm certainly not an expert. Now, experts are the ones that are telling me I'm doing it wrong.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, thank you ever so much.
Yeah, thank you. Awesome. It's always good to see you.
Always great to see you. Once again, this is how important it is. And this is not a sales job because it's free. Go
free,
and subscribe.
kids.
It's a free gift.
Sign up.
You
Send
get it
me an email.
delivered to
Say
your
hello.
house for free, or you get it online for free, or both. As the rest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very much. You got it. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Woo.
Hey, it's Warren here. I am with Adam of Nanolog. How are you?
Hi, good.
Adam is a research scientist in Alberta,
That's
in Canada.
Right. Yep.
But also a guitar player.
Correct. Yep.
And in part of your research, you came up with an idea, which is, well, tell us about it, because you can explain it better than I can.
I will. So I've been studying molecular devices for many years, how electrons go across molecules, and we're looking for ways to use those. And it turns out they're really cool in distortion circuitry because of how the nanoscale charge transport works. So we tried it out in some components, switching out some components and some overdrives, and it actually sounds really cool. Sounded really great in dynamics, we really like that. So then we kind of figured out a way to manufacture them and get them into little components like this, which a builder can kind of understand how to use, and then put them into an overdrive pedal like this, so you can kind of switch between different Nanolog devices as well as germanium and silicon diodes, kind of see how the dynamics and the sound changes with that.
So I've been playing with it, and it's really kind of wonderful. I don't know how much is going to come through on mics and stuff, but what I like about it, I was saying to Adam, is I can imagine using this on an amp with a good front end, tube amp, valve amp, depending how you look at it. Because listen to the dynamics. I hope this will come across. If not, you'll have to trust me. But you can just tell, like how it's super dynamic. It's not like anything you've ever played before. And I was saying to Adam, what it reminds me of is the first time I ever heard a tube screamer as a kid. Because the tube screamer had this sort of sense of clean tone with a distortion around it, which made it really, really good for driving tube amps. Like every rock guy, took a tube screamer and stuck it into the front of a Marshall. This is going to do the same thing for me. I'm going to annoy the neighbors for a second. Take it up pretty heavy. It just makes the tube amp amazing when you drive it. So what it does is it exemplifies what I like about a tube amp, pushing it harder because it's exaggerating the dynamics. So it gives you even more of that kind of classic, clean when you're playing soft, distorted by driving the amp when you're playing hard, which is what we love about tube amps. Yeah. That's inherently about it, is that you can be like, yeah, awesome. Very smart. I like it.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, let's see if we can get people to grab hold of it. But you're already kind of doing what I would imagine would be the best thing. Right. That is to give people the option of having different styles of distortion.
That's right. Yeah, that's what the pedal was really designed to do, but also show it off to other pedal builders, amp builders. Yeah. Like we want them to understand exactly what it can do. Yeah. And design all kinds of cool products as well. So
I think it's a really smart idea because the great thing about the digital world, I'm sure you understand, it's like I'm going around and talking to people that are building compressors. Right. And they used to have these three functions like attack and release, input sensitivity, threshold, whatever. Now they've got parallel compression. Now, and it's because of digital. Because plugins are like pushing the limit. So now analog guys are having to think about, well, how can I compete with that?
Well, exactly. Here's a new analog soft clipping component. So I don't know when the last new analog, like genuinely, but it's just how current flows across it. There's no digital. It's just a tunnel device.
I think it's great. I think everybody that manufactures a distortion pedal can now have a different way of distorting.
Yes.
Pretty smart. Good job.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Adam.
Appreciate your time. Yeah.
Thank you.
First time here in Nashville, Little Labs showing at the Summer NAMM. We're having a great time. Best parties of any trade show I've been at in a couple of years.
I love it because like everybody you want to see is here.
Yeah.
And you don't have to fight between 10,000 other people.
And the food's good. We had some good barbecue, some hot chicken. But the reason we're here is to show off the Little Labs monitor, and this is part deux, because we already showed it once at AES.
Yeah, but I decided, quite frankly, that it sounds so freaking good that, you know, not everybody on the planet has seen that video, so let's give them another chance to talk about it.
Well, what I want to talk about is somewhat of the design structure of it. Now, I don't know if I did that before, but what a lot of people don't understand is that amplifiers at a certain gain have a life to them. And they tend to, like, as any of you, if you're an engineer, you know there's a mic pre, and you get a certain gain, and everything just has a little more life to it. It's not a frequency response thing. It's just you can hear the air better between like an instrument there and an instrument there. You can feel that phase relationship. It doesn't seem like a 2D slate. It really adds dimension. Now, with the Little Labs monitor, and what makes it different than really any other headphone amp out there, and I'm kind of giving a trade secret here, and I make a mistake in doing that. We use a single active gain stage rather than the typical 3 active gain stage. And by doing that, we can run it at its optimum gain, where you can tell the phase relationship between an instrument that was recorded here and one, with the mic, off the mic over there. And when you put on your headphones with this, you're going, wow, I can really hear the singer taking a breath, the squeaky kick drum pedal, when you hear the horn of a Leslie go by, you actually feel that. And that's the big key to that. It's the way we've done that. Another feature that's on this headphone amp that doesn't seem to be on any other headphone amp that I know of, it's certainly not on the professional ones, is mono functions. Now there's a mono button, but the mono button's typically just a left plus right. What we have on this, we have a stereo reverse. So if you come in the morning and you listen to your track, and the stereo, your snare is on the right, if you flip the left, right left, then all of a sudden you put it on the other ear. If it sounds dull, you know you got a potato in your ear, and you got to clear it out. I mean, a really simple thing like that is a good thing to have. So you have that, then you have left plus right, but then you have left in both ears, right in both ears, and then the key one that nobody has is left minus right. Mind you, you can do that very easily on a console by flipping the polarity of one channel and summing them together, and then anything that's common to both channels that's in phase gets completely canceled. By being able to do that on the fly, it's a very useful thing.
Oh, I love it. I always love that for like, I've got a vocal piano and I want to hear what reverb was on the vocal.
Right.
Cancel out the middle, suddenly I hear the plate.
Well, a lot of my rapper friends, they like to go, wow, I can steal tracks that way. Because you can just eliminate, like, you got a Fleetwood Mac track, which always has Stevie dead center. Pop that left minus right, and her vocals gone.
Not that we're advocating stealing tracks.
No.
I'm going to listen again. You can keep talking. I'm going to listen. Because I love it.
And, there's 4 headphone jacks on the unit, 2 3.5 millimeter and 2 1/4-inch jacks. The jacks to the right are powered completely separate from the jacks on the left. So you will never be loading your other other headphone, and you can easily power 4 headphones with the unit, but there's a single volume control between them, so you would probably want to use matched headphones. There's also a 3.5 millimeter input jack on the back, which bypasses all the mono functions and stuff. So if you're listening to a track and you have your phone and you want to play a track that's on your phone, you can plug that in and they sum together, so you can turn down what's coming off the console, for example, and then listen to what's coming off the phone. Other features are there's dual TRS XLR jacks on the rear, and another set of TRS jacks, and they're all in parallel. So you can daisy chain multiple units across a room. You digging it?
I'm loving it.
He's loving it, like McDonald's, but better. It's powered by actually an external supply that usually sits on the ground. So it's not that heavy a unit, so it's quite nice to just have it sitting on the console. And I'm trying to think what other stuff. It easily drives high impedance phones, 300 ohm phones, and also
it always has the best tracks playing.
Yeah.
Always, yeah. Just like, oh.
And I'm trying to think of some other stuff, but Nashville is a great town, great show, and there he is, he's rocking.
Can you hear me knocking?
Yeah.
Fantastic,
Yeah.
fantastic. It's totally right though. What's really interesting, as soon as I'm listening left, right, as soon as I went to right, left, it freaks me out because you can hear the differences in the way you hear things.
Yeah. You can tell if you got a potato in your ear. I'm serious about that. Yeah.
Well, I think a lot, it reminds me, I was doing an album with Dave Sardi years ago, and...
Dave is a big fan of the PCP, another Little Labs product.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Hey, what's the, I'm not looking at your product line, what's the name of like the unit you've got where you can take multiple guitar inputs and flip phase?
That's a PCP.
That's what it is, yeah, that's
Dave
the one.
is one of the first users of it. Dave Sardi, one of the first users.
Yeah, that's where we used
that
it.
was on a Marilyn Manson, Hollywood, what was that, Marilyn Manson?
Yeah, I know the one you mean.
Yeah. And that actually saved their tracks because the record company hated the guitar tracks, the sound of them. But they already had them down, and with the PCP you can lay a dry track. Not to get off subject here.
No, it's good.
And they went back and used the PCP, and I said, always lay down that dry track. You don't even have to listen to it. And they did, and they came back and they redid all the guitars with different amps, and they go and saved the album.
Great. Yeah,
like,
no, it's an amazing unit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave Jordan turned me onto that as well. A lot of people love it.
Yeah.
Great.
All the heavyweights have them.
Yeah, because it makes it, you can have, how many amps can you have running at once?
Well, you really can have 4, but there's 3 main channels on it.
Right. Wonderful.
Yep. Well,
awesome. Well, thanks ever so much.
Oh, yeah. No
I really appreciate it.
Thanks you for interviewing the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, you did most of the talking. It was great. This has made my life easy. But yeah, this is the finest headphone amp I've ever heard.
Right on, right on.
So here I am, and with my friend Dave Mellapore. How are you?
I'm great. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I appreciate you coming by the booth and saying hello.
Well,
always
as you know,
pleasure.
My good friend Bob Horn, who I do a lot of stuff with, has been using your speakers now for 3 years?
Just about 6.
Wow, has it really been that long?
Yeah, he's been one of our first, our first users, because maybe 5 years. 5 years we put those in, and he obviously loves them, and he's turned on so many other people, including Dave Penzato, who fell in love with them there when he was working in Bob's room before he had his room. So that was, an amazing.
The thing about them is like, it's just, I don't know which model he has out of these, but whichever model you pick, these are big speakers.
Right. Well, he's got single 15 with 18 subs. These are our smaller speakers.
Right.
I say smaller because that's one of the smaller speakers we make, but we're really only in the main monitoring business. We right now haven't come out with a product for a console top or a small format.
The point I was going to make, and you're going to understand this, is that Bob mixes like this, at this kind of level, with these huge drivers, but the efficiency's so good on the drivers that you don't have to push the snizzle out of them to make them sound good.
Well, part of that is
really nice.
Yeah,
he said he abandoned using NS10s.
It was crazy.
And now it just mixes on those.
When I first set up the system, he had these stands that put his speakers at that time, which I want to say were, he had NS10s, but he had something else.
I don't remember.
Oh, he had Focals. So he's like, they're in the way of the mains. I'll just put them on the floor while you're tuning. And then after we were tuned, he's like, I think I'm going to just mix this next record without near fields. I'm just going to work on these and see how that tuning worked. And he called me back, he goes, Dave, I haven't put my near fields back up, and that was like 2 months later. So he really dove into them. And in a way, the interesting thing about a speaker that you tune to a room and a user is that what makes it kind of unique is that we can really dial it into that experience and try to make it not just pleasant to listen to, but more accurate. So it's what it does to your mixing. And I think for Bob, what he's expressed to me is that it helped him hear better.
And that's a really, really important thing that we should touch on. These aren't just like, you're not selling plug and play. Here's a box, we'll deliver it, go and pick it up from the post office and plug it in. You're selling the whole thing. You come down there, you figure out everything for the room. I mean,
well, it's everything from, speaker positioning, and you'd be surprised how important positioning is. Like, every speaker is a transducer, so just like a microphone has a polar pattern. If you have a small system like this, it's still the same. Basically, this is the Duo 8. It's dual 8-inch with a horn, and we have the Solo 12 sub 12. But this is more omni.
Yeah.
These are more cardioid, and this is more hypercardioid in the sense because this has a 70 degree vertical by 110 degree horizontal dispersion, and that allows us to really aim that.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same way you'd aim a hypercardioid mic versus an omni for the room to pick up everything. But when we're positioning it, just slight differences in that position can really affect our perception of mid-range, high-end. And a lot of times when I'm tuning, what I do is I'm actually firing off the pink noise while I look at my analyzer, and then I start moving the speaker while I'm looking at it, and I can find the spot where this frequency response smooths out. So an inch over this way and you get a bunch of jaggedy, reflective environment, and then you find this one spot where before we EQ it, before we do anything, I position it. And that's a lot like a kick drum or a snare drum. Right. I mean, I'm sure you remember putting a snare drum mic over 1 inch and suddenly all the bass is gone, or all the ring is there, or the same thing with the kick drum. So we do the same thing with the speaker before I even tune it. So first is positioning, and then EQing obviously isn't a one-for-one thing in a room because there's a lot of psychoacoustic factors. There's a lot of reflections. There's, are we getting the direct signal? Are we getting a reflection off the desk? Are we getting?
Do you find yourself? This is a great question. Give me great ideas here. Do you find yourself also helping people out with their rooms? You're getting there and going.
Absolutely. Great. I mean, even some rooms that are really well designed, they didn't anticipate a reflection, or they didn't anticipate how that power would power that room. Like, they were thinking 85 dB, but someone puts in a system that can go 130 dB, like, the room changes. And I was in a room recently where the room performed great up to about 90 dB.
Right.
After 90 dB, the bass absorption just wasn't enough. So suddenly, once you exceeded that, the low frequency overtook the mids and highs. So because the mid and high absorption were very even, and
which is interesting because those of us that mix, we don't mix at 110 dB all the time, but you go there to check your mix. You want to know. Ulrich Wilde always says that to me. He mixes heavy rock. He's like, you have to listen to it loud because people listen to rock music loud.
Well, you've got to feel it. Or if you're mixing urban music, I mean, so much urban music today has a huge low-end component. And it's really hard to understand how that's going to hold together with a vocal until you bring that up a bit.
Right.
Or if the music's designed to go in a club. I mean, you wouldn't want to mix club music on a little pair of speakers alone without knowing what the bottom's going to do. So here at the show, we're showing our newly introduced, this is the Duo 12 MF. It's also got the new Sub 212, and you can see it's a vertical alignment. All the drivers in this system, the way that we have it positioned, are exactly, all the diaphragms are in an exact line. So that keeps reflections down to a minimum, and involvement from the horizontal plane is minimized. But it also allows the signal to line up physically in a way that's similar to the way we perceive it. And this is obviously a high power system,
right?
But it's also incredible at low volumes. So like a guy like Teddy Riley, one of the greatest producers of all time, of New Jack Swing or whatever.
Absolutely.
When he got he's got a double 15, double 18, 5,000 watt system, and we set it up and I tuned it. And a lot of people, when they get those systems, the first thing they do is turn it all the way up, or as much as they can stand, and they go like, "Oh, listen how loud this is." He's like, "Let me show you what I do when I'm mixing," and he turned it all the way down to 1 click on his monitor controller, to the point where it's like, he goes, "Listen, this mix, he put on Dangerous, that he, Michael Jackson tune, and he's like, listen, you can hear everything the same way at this volume than when you turn it up." And he goes, "When I'm mixing, this is where I'm mixing here at 1 or 2 clicks for 80% of my time, and then when I really get it, then I start to turn it up until I get it, and now I'm feeling it, but my first goal is that I can still hear the kick drum, snare drum, bass guitar, and vocal relationship at the minimum volume." He goes, "On a small speaker, I can't do that. Because with this speaker, all the way down at 65 dB, your pants are still got a little bit of movement to them. You're still feeling the bass." So a lot of what I like to think about with these is that not only you're hearing the music, but you feel it, and it changes our perception. Like, the other thing that's incredible is if you're a bass player and you're going to do a bass overdub, doing it in front of a small speaker versus doing it here. Like, if you're in the control room doing an overdub and you can feel like you're in front of your SVT or your, get that pulse that you get when you're playing live.
It makes me think, when I'm working with bands in pre-production, in crappy little garage or rehearsal rooms, which is pretty typical, I always get the bass player to go and put his foot on the front of the kick drum, on the lip, so they can feel that through it. It's that same thing. It adds to it. It doesn't matter how loud. It's like you just want to feel the low end.
Right, and you're as a bass player, if the transients, these things are very, very fast, so you're going to have all your note dexterity, you're going to have all your clarity, and you're going to feel it like you stood in front of your bass amp. And I think if you're trying to get a performance out of a musician, putting them in a comfort zone or an excitement zone, something that's not just, oh, I'm playing my part. It's like you're getting a feeling back, and it's hard to do that in the control room. It's hard to get a feeling out of your instrument when you're not standing in front of it. As a guitar player, I know when my guitar amp is super low, I'm like, come on,
You're not inspired,
So it's great for that, but it's also an incredible mixing speaker because, first off, in tuning it, getting that positioning right, then getting the EQ balance right. I've also developed, over 20 years of tuning speakers, I've developed a reference curve that I believe is the right shape to make an engineer work hard to get a mix that's going to translate. So it's not really great if your mix in the room's great, but when you leave the room, that the vocal moves back or the bass overtakes it or disappears. You want the mix that you heard in the room. And that whether that's production, a rough mix, or a final mix, you want it to be what you conceived of when you felt that music initially. So tuning the system and getting it into the right space, and one of the interesting things about a freestanding monitor, these can be soffit mounted as well, but more and more people have budgets where building these really gigantic rooms with elaborate acoustics and elaborate design isn't possible. So they're going to take a rehearsal room or a room in their house or garage, they're going to put some acoustic treatments up, and we're going to put a speaker in their room. And so being able to position it, locate it exactly right, so when you're sitting, you're in the sweet spot, that you're filling the room right, and then tune it.
Right.
It becomes part of the tools for getting your sounds. I would love to show you the process.
I think that'd be exciting.
People to see what's involved, because we can apply it, even though we have specialized tuning tools in the amps that we build, and they have some really advanced equalization, and we also have, like, our DSP has this incredibly low noise in the DSP itself. It's the lowest self noise of any DSP that I've found, and what that does is it keeps the dithering amps and filters from having to be activated, and it makes a much more natural high frequency if you don't have to filter it, because it's already sounds good.
That was always the thing when you went to the bigger rooms and you had the Augspurgers sort of sitting in the wall, from the 70s, is that you couldn't monitor quiet. It was basically the power amps were just,
well, those type, classic, A, B, or A, or, great. I mean, look, I've made many systems using Bryston's, and they're great amps. They have an exceptional warranty, and we still, even as much as we make our own amp and we have our own drivers, we're building a system right now for a customer, and he wanted the classic TAD driver Bryston combination, and that's what he has in his other room, and that's what he wanted. And we build that.
That's what he knows, right?
So our custom shop will build anything you want. But if you said, hey, what are you building right now? We have our own driver, we have our own amp. We build everything ourselves in Massachusetts, except the drivers are custom built for us. And so yeah, we love what we make, and these amps are extremely fast, extremely low distortion. But like my client who's having us build with the TADs and the Bryson goes, well, I like the way that they kind of, when you hit them a little bit harder, they have a little breakup. And he's like, that's part of what I'm used to. Our system with our components is absolutely clear to all volumes. So, you know, guys like Dr. Dre, when I was tuning his room, they're listening at 120 and 130 dB sometimes for long periods of time. Low distortion means you can do that for a really long time and not have any ear pain. It's strange, but you know, distortion is the thing that actually brings pain. So,
well,
thank you for taking
a look.
Thank you.
Lots of details, lots to talk about
so
here.
much, and I'd love to invite you to the next tuning session. I'm
Please,
in LA,
do that.
and we'll do that.
Great.
Perfect.
That'd be fantastic.
All right, and have a great show.
Thank you. All right, thank you ever so much for watching. Have a marvelous time recording and mixing. Please leave a bunch of comments and questions below.
And you can find us at augspurger.com. That's AUGSPURGER.com.
Excellent.
Thank you.